Well, how's about that? Let me check and see where we are. See if we're back on live again. Let me see. Let me see if we're back on live again before we kick. You know what I'm saying? Just one of those things. Just one of those things. Let's see. Yeah. Yes, we are back on live again. Part 2, Tasty Tuesday. Let me bring the phone lines back in. All right. Bring the phone lines back in because that 35 minutes is still existing.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please enter your host PIN. When finished, press the pound key.
To start your show now, press 1.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
All right, reconnecting us now. Welcome back, people. As you see, my sister put out the video to let you know what's going on. So, hopefully we get our viewership back because I'm not going to be able to do all of the pre-promotion and marketing that I usually do. But we are on part 2, and let me find it on my phone here. Is this? No, that's not part 2. It's still part 1. Let me see. Go back here, clean that out, go home, go here. And here we are live to finish up, right? Let me write this up real quick so people can see it. We're back on. That's right, we're back on, right? So look, we're back on. Glad to have the people back on with us, watching with us. We are back on. Oh, I see our people are coming back in on YouTube. Yes. And we have our people coming back on FB and on the various platforms on Vimeo, etc., etc. All right, so anyway. So we are on part 2. We are part 2 of Tasty Tuesdays Undoubtable Facts 2. We hadn't even got to the vegan dishes yet. So you know that we weren't done yet. So we came back. This right here reminds me of this next meme before we get back to the race equity. This reminds me of what they're trying to do to the people. They're trying to super soak the people, but remember, because the super soaker came from a black man. This is the NASA engineer who invented the super soaker. That's right. He is the man who invented the super soaker. It seems like when we talk about things on ObservationsTFR, they seem to show up in memes the next day. We talked about Benjamin Banneker last week. Benjamin Banneker has been the rage all weekend long, right? This is why they do not worry us or stop us with their shenanigans. Why we do not worry about them at all with their shenanigans. Because small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements gained slowly over time. John C. Maxwell. Small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements gained slowly over time. It is a marathon, not a sprint. That's what you have to realize. It is a marathon, not a sprint, as they are not giving us 100% as of yet, right? That's 100%. Let me make sure that there's nothing up underneath. Stop. Here we go. There's something up underneath that we have to get rid of.
Let me say something while you're fixing that.
Okay. Uh, Go ahead.
See, the word discipline, that is the issue right there. The word discipline, small disciplines repeated with consistency. This is what they're trying to avoid you. They know that between a diet of not just what you eat in your digestive system, but a diet of what you take into your mind, into your spirit, all culminate into how you're going to be disciplined. In fact, we live in a world that discourages discipline unless it's towards a certain thing. There's a discipline towards that which is negative and not that which is positive or uplifting for you as a human being, as a person, as an individual person. You are encouraged in disciplines to be as part of a groupthink situation, but you're not encouraged in disciplines as an individual. You understand? So when we think of it from that perspective, we understand that this is the reason why this is a new censorship right here. And as soon as a number of us band together to come against this, that's what it's going to take. What it's going to take is a boycotting of some of these platforms, because they don't understand nothing but a hit in the pocket. A hit in the pocket is the only thing that talks. That's the only thing that talks, a hit in the pocket. So while you're clipping and you're making it obvious, you're helping us actually make it obvious to the people, because the people are kind of hard of hearing. They're kind of dull of hearing. So as they see these type of activities, they understand that you don't want them to know something. Maybe that will jar them and jog them and say, well, wow, what don't they want us to know? Maybe we should find out. Maybe we should listen, because everybody ain't getting clipped. You notice that? Everybody don't get clipped, just the people that are bringing you truth.
Facts. Because, truths can be manipulated, but, like they thought Biden was the truth. That could be manipulation. Now,
He never
here's
was,
something.
though. They never did, but they never did the research.
Here's something that is fact indeed. Fact indeed. This is from the Black Filmmakers Group that I'm a member of. The Black Filmmakers Group. Now, what I want you to focus your eyes on is popular topics in this group. Hashtag film. Hashtag TFR Podcast Live. Hashtag writer. So you see, hashtag TFR Podcast Live is a popular topic. Topics like hashtag topics, film, writer, writing, but hashtag TFR Podcast Live, 261 posts in this group, is number 2 in popular topics in this group. TFR Podcast Live that comes on Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern is a popular topic. Now, we showed you where we are the popular podcast with Observations TFR, number 4 on the popular podcast list. We're going for number 1, though. But on this list right here, as far as popular topics in this group, hashtag TFR Podcast Live is a hot topic. Number 2. See, that's that discipline and constantly moving and working to make it happen. I don't see others doing that. Oh, we are coming back. Smash the share button, smash it. We are coming back to the Susan Rice as they're clipping us, right? we are coming back to that, but we were going to finish the memes out, but we are coming back to that, right? Which brings us to this. Excuse me at the end, because I am bad with African names, Polish names, written out Russian names. You can forget it. And a lot of the Islamic names, surnames, and all that, I am bad at the pronunciation of names, even though I do have my own name. Abdul Qadir Ali. I've had that make my own name, right? So look, before I say this, well, I'll put it up. Okay, here it is. Allah does not forget the good you do, nor does he forget the good you did to others and the pain you relieved from them, nor will he forget the eye which was about to cry, but you made it laugh. Live your life with the principle. Be good even if you don't receive good, not because of others' sake, but because Allah loves the good doers. Abin al Qayyim. I hope that I'm pronouncing it right. Now, for me, Qayyim. Okay, whatever. Like I said, I'm bad with those names. You have to excuse me. Say that's why we do translations. But anyway, the name for God has always been Allah is always a great representation for me for God's name. Not to mention these are Abrahamic religions. There's Ishmael, who came first, and Isaac, who were born to Sarah late up in age, but born to her later after God and two angels came to Abraham, and while God was telling Abraham that he would have child and Sarah scoffed, the two angels were down at Sodom and Gomorrah almost being raped, and then just flattening Sodom and Gomorrah to the ground. Okay. What a justification of life and death. Oh, they're clipping us. They don't want us to know about that. Now, Allah, arm, leg, arm, head. Allah, arm, leg, arm, head is a perfect representative name of God, because I am, therefore I am, arm, leg, arm, head. He is me, or she is me. I am he, I am she. I am, therefore I am. Allah, arm, leg, arm, head. So that has always been a perfectly great representation of the name of God for me. Arm, leg, arm, head. I am, therefore I am. Allah does not forget the good you do, nor does he forget the good you did to others and the pain you relieved from them. Nor will he forget the eye which was about to cry, but you made it laugh. Live your life with this principle. Be good even if you don't receive good, nor because not because of others' sake, but because Allah loves the good doers. Now, this is not something where it's saying thou shalt not, because actually it is an affirmation of man or woman saying, I shall not kill, I shall not be adulterous, I shall not. The virtues of man, not beings staying over you and pointing down, thou shalt not, you shall not, you shall not. So this is reaffirming language of arm, leg, arm, head. I am, therefore I am. For me, that is no contradiction between Christianity because it all comes from Abraham. I remember I was at
Let me comment on
okay,
that.
let me tell this quick story. We were at a bistro, and I remember the person was talking about the Bible, and they were talking about, they were talking about something. They got on some kind of subject, and I was like, the Muslims in Palestine are the people of Ishmael who come from Abraham, and the people who call themselves Christians are from the line of Isaac pushing forth, but both of them are Abraham religion. Abraham religions, right? And the person was like, I said, there is no division between the two because that is something that man made, not really understanding. But when you read the book, a spring was sprung, and it was said that you would have this land, the descendants of Ishmael, through Hagar, and the covenant was made to Abraham and passed on to his line through Isaac. So the Christians got the covenant. They changed the name so much, but let's just cut to the chase. I'm going to cut to the chase. I like to cut to the chase here. So the Christians get the covenant. The descendants of Ishmael get the land. So when you are sitting and you are discussing with people, you have to look at what is right and what is wrong. That's what we discuss, what is right and what is wrong. And more than that, what is demonic. What would you like to say? Go ahead.
Oh boy, what a wonderful subject. And for you Christian listeners who take somewhat of an issue with the principle, there's no issue here, but if you need scripture, I'll give you some. Hebrews 6:10, for God is not unjust. Will not forget your work and labor of love that you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. There's also James chapter 4:17. Therefore, to him to knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to that man that is evil. And Luke 6:38, give and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken, and running over, shall he cause men to give unto your bosom. That's just three. There's more, but because the scripture itself says, out of the mouth of two or three witnesses, let every matter be established. The matter has been established by those three scriptures. The other thing is that when it comes to covenant, D is absolutely right. Through the line of Hagar, the Ishmaelites came, and God did promise. God gave them a promise. He wasn't the promised child, but God gave him a promise because he was a descendant of Abraham to make of them too a great nation. And then we have, through the line of Christianity or through Isaac, you have the Christian line. But here it is when it comes to any of it. After Christ came, the matter of who's in covenant and who's not, see, y'all about to be mad, and I want to make you mad. The line of who, the difference between of who's in covenant is the circumcision of the heart. So if you're going to church and you're saying, Lord, Lord, remember in that day, he's going to say, many of them said unto me, Lord, Lord, have we not done all this in your name? And he's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you, because there was no circumcision of the heart. So in line of who's in covenant is who has a heart of the covenant. The heart of the covenant is demonstrated by doing good to others. by treating others well. Because before he said, many will say unto me in that day, all the preceding scriptures was talking about the relationship between man and man, how we treat one another. See that, and I mean, I'm sorry, a lot of y'all church folks is going to hell with gasoline draws on for how you treat one another, including the leaders. I'll leave that for my broadcast. However, in lines of who's in covenant and who's not in covenant, it's in the circumcision of the heart. God is much more interested in how we treat each other than our titles.
All right. So let's get to this. They clipped us out on this. Smash the share button, smash the like button. We're back to this. Race equity. And we're telling you what it is. I wonder if all the people who were laughing and jumping around and doing the line dances are feeling the same way. And how come you haven't run up the older people that are into this politics of personal responsibility? Show us that show Generation X and the younger generations under you that you are responsible, and go take that vaccine, and then we'll have the 16-day parameter, and then if you survive it, we'll wait and see if you survive the second part of the vaccine, because we know. So can you do that for us? Can you do that for your generations afterwards? If you sacrifice, we find out that it's not good, then we will know most definitely and not do it. So here is Susan Rice, and like I said, the concept of this is that she opens up and says in the first minute or so they're clipping, the first minute, that she is an immigrant and also descendants. So automatically it's bad for American blacks who have been here. Only 388,000 landed on the shores of the Americas from Africa. Only 388,000. So the rest of us had to have already been here and been intermingled in. The land stolen. So, all of that has to be reconciled and replaced. Meanwhile, they keep on bringing immigrants. We tell you about that with Martin Luther King every opening, and this is nothing new. They're just bringing in now the last immigrants they can, because Caucasians are dwindling. They're only 8% of the population. Back when I was a kid, they were 8.5, but they're dwindling down. So now the only immigrants they can bring in are the immigrants from brown countries. Unfortunate for them, and they want to keep it going, so they will not let American blacks take their rightful place. That's what this is all about. This is the ball game. If you believe it or not, that is on you, but that is the ball game. That is what this is all about. And let's go through this. Yes.
Which particular broadcast is this? The one from 6 days ago? White House advisor expanding opportunities for Americans.
Yes, I believe so. I believe that's the
okay.
one.
This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. If they clip us again, I will have this ready. The post as an individual video that you'll be able to pull up on my page on the hashtag observations TFR page. You're not going to block it. Okay. So we're going to, I'm going to have this ready. I'm pulling it up now. Start, and we'll finish. Go ahead, D.
All right. Here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be back. Jen, thanks. The President has committed the whole of our government to advancing racial justice and equity for all Americans. I'm leading this effort out of the Domestic Policy Council. I've assembled a first-rate team to drive this agenda forward. We'll hold the federal government accountable for advancing equity for families across America. I have the support of every White House office and every agency in this work because, as President Biden has made clear, advancing equity is everybody's job. Tackling these challenges, though, is personal for me. I'm the descendant of immigrants from Jamaica and enslaved Americans.
Okay, so she's descendant. She didn't say descendants from enslaved Africans in America and descendants of Jamaica. She put the immigrant classification up first. When I heard that, I said, we're in trouble already. This is a switcheroo that's getting ready to happen, right? They said all Americans, all American families, all, not just figuring out how to make one group a protected class. Now that's what the whole situation is. Once they signed the 1965 Immigration Act, at the same time they were signing the Voter Rights Act, they were finding a way to change it over. It was the black man and woman were a protected class, but then they changed the word to minority, and then they started letting in all these other minorities, and somehow black people kept going down to the bottom, and all these others get over you. This is what this game is all about, and you better come off the bench. You better stop being a bench warmer and get into the game. Let's continue. So automatically when she said that, I said, oh, we're in trouble already. Oh, they're clipping. They don't want you to know this. Smash the share button, smash the like button. Thank all the people who came back in. Let's keep moving.
My grandparents and my parents are beneficiaries of the American dream, and so am I. My family's story is a remarkable one of the march towards greater equality and opportunity. But for too many American families, systemic racism and inequality in our economy, laws and institutions still put the American dream far out of reach. Today, the average black family has just 1/10 the wealth of the average white family, while the gap...
it sounds, right now it sounds good. Oh boy, she is laying it on thick. It sounds good. She got that from ADOS 101, 101.com. You got that from ADOS 101.com. I mean, like the facts and figures. Oh, she's laying it on thick. Oh, wait a minute. I think that they're actually going to do something for American blacks. But let's keep listening. Let's listen to the switcheroo as it goes, right? So let's listen.
Gap between white and black in home ownership is now larger than it was in 1960.
Okay, now wait. What we've been talking about the whole time. So this right there, when she got to home ownership, I said, oh, this is straight from off of his plan, his election plan. Go to Biden's ultimate plan, it was called, right? And you can read what happened. So it was a lot of things that had to do with immigrants, and one paragraph that had to do with black people, and it had to do with home ownership, getting a $15,000 rebate, The average home costs $150,000. You're getting a $15,000 rebate that you don't see in cold hard cash. You see it in rebates through taxes. If there is a bottom that falls out again like it did during this COVID, or if there's a depression, you will be out your house, which will put you in debt. Not only that, but you have to pay property tax. They don't want you to know that. So by the time you finish with your 30-year mortgage and then you find a way to refinance your mortgage, you are still paying, and you may not finish paying by the time that you pass on from this side of heaven over to the other side. And if there is a downfall, you will go into debt, and it will be in your record. Now, on the other hand, what the immigrants get is guaranteed health care. They're clipping. Guaranteed healthcare. We've talked about this in nauseam last year. Like, why would you clip us on this? New people are watching. I understand. Guaranteed healthcare. Tax identification number, right? So that you can get a tax identification number, so that you can then get a driver's license. Once you get your driver's license, you can register to vote. Boy, they're clipping us. Register to vote, and then you are guaranteed a job. You're already guaranteed health care. You're guaranteed a job, and you're able to have guaranteed public assistant housing. And we're not talking about projects. We're talking about in the burbs, baby. Houses in the burbs. You're going to be living with the people in subsidized housing, but it will not be projects, baby. This is it. So they talk about home ownership. Is that all Biden wants to talk about? Oh, they are clipping us heavy. This is truly for real. So this is what they're saying. This is the game. So while the 11 million dreamers who were brought here, no fault of their own, will get citizenship not in 13 years but in 8, while the 90,000 migrant workers coming here a year, and the 500,000 Indians from India. Have you been in the hospital system? You see it already. Show me a doctor or a nurse that's American black, and I'll say that you hit the jackpot that day, buddy. So, this is the game, and it's the same game that Martin Luther King laid out in that speech that he was working on, because he was going to deliver it at the Poor People's March. So it was part of it because he was going to tie in the plight of the Caucasian that we see now. That's why the Caucasians, right or wrong, stormed the Capitol back on January 6th, because they said that the government does not care about us, and they have proven through and through that they do not care about the American citizen, because time is up for those immigrants, those white immigrants. They have served their purpose, and now they're bringing in the brown immigrants, right? So let's continue on. Let's see if they only giving me 95. Let's see if this will still play, or if they're sending the signal through to be an impedance. It's called impedance. When they send a steady signal through that will impede the signal of a video playing, it is called impedance. Let's go. Let's see.
These long-standing inequities are compounded by the converging crises we face as a nation. Americans of color are being infected by and dying from COVID-19 at higher rates.
Americans of color, we are either American black, or we're not Americans of color, because when they put us, see, that's that minority classification. You take out the protected class classification for American blacks, and you put in people of color. So then you start talking about, this is the switch. They start talking about people, Americans of color. So then you start flipping around, and they say that American blacks and Hispanics are on the front line again. So now when you start getting into this language, they're starting to flip it. You have to understand and have a knowledge of how they are flipping this on you. So let's continue. So right there is the flip. When they start talking about people of when they start talking about people of color, Americans of color, that's not just American black. So this has changed from race equity for American blacks right there. Let's continue.
1 in 10 Black Americans and 1 in 11 Latinos are currently employed. By some estimates, 40% of Black businesses have been forced to close for good during the COVID crisis. Black and Latino families with children are twice as likely to be experiencing food insecurity.
Okay, now you see how they're connecting Latino and black together, right? Latinos send their money back to their families over the border. We talked about that. What is that? $36.7 billion, $1 billion to go back over to the across the border. But yet they say that the people pay taxes. Does my head screw on and off? Meanwhile, American blacks are a $1.2 trillion a year spender of cash to buy things. If we were a nation, we would be Australia or Russia, and there's two more countries that we would be. We would be these countries, and Mexico. And Mexico is biting to be a superpower, and Russia has already been and is trying to get back to be a superpower. We're one, and that's what their gross GDP is, 1.2 trillion. We spend that a year, and we pay taxes. Does my head screw on and off? So why is there a false equivalency being put down between Latinos and American blacks? It just not make sense, but that's part of the flip. And you fall for it and you think it is a black and brown coalition. I live out here in Las Vegas. There's no such thing. I don't know how many times I have to tell you. Stephanie Tubbs Jones, before she passed on, we're bringing in the Latins, the Latinos, and the natives. The natives, the ones, but anyway, another story on that. The natives into the August Labor Day parade and rally at Luke Easter Park, right? She was bringing them in. She was starting it before she had the brain aneurysm and she passed on, right? This is true indeed, facts. This is what's happening. This is no black and brown coalition. Just not. Sorry. Just can't cut it any other way but just to tell the truth. Let's continue on.
During the pandemic, as white families, and Black and Latino Americans are 2.8 times more likely to die of COVID-19. And for Native communities across the country, the overlapping economic and health crises have devastated tribal economies and healthcare systems. These are desperate times for so many Americans, and all Americans need urgent federal action to meet this moment. Today, President Biden will deliver a national address on his plans to advance racial justice and equity, starting with an equitable and inclusive recovery. President Biden will renew the federal government's commitment to making the American dream real for families across the nation by taking ambitious steps to redress inequality in our economy and expand opportunity for communities that have been left behind, including communities of color. His economic plans make his...
Wait a minute. What other, including communities that have been left behind, including communities of color. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. First she opens up, she says, I'm an immigrant and I have a slave situation. Then she goes on to say about people of color, Americans of color. So she's speaking of black and brown. Now she says that Americans who have been left behind, and people of color. Well, who are those people who were left behind? I thought you were talking about race equity, and race equity would deal with American blacks first, but then she says, and those people who were left behind, and people of color. They've already grouped American blacks in with Latinos, and then they say people who were left behind and people of color. Tonya, who are they? Who do you suppose that they are talking about when they say the people left behind and people of color? I don't quite get. I don't get it.
I find it interesting. Okay, so it depends on what perspective and where you're sitting from, because the people left behind and the people of color. So, okay, so when things are due to us as American blacks, then the language is changed around to say people of color, to be inclusive of all other colors that not necessarily encompass just American black or ADOS. But then when you put this distinction on it, you say the people left behind and the people of color. What is that? That's slick. That's very slick, because up until this point you were including us with the people of color. So who are the people left behind? And does that bring back in and factor back in Caucasian? If the benefit this is you know y'all, you know what? I just can't. So let me see. I wasn't born with notches on the side of my neck, so I can't unscrew them. I'm trying to lift my head off my shoulders. I'm trying to do it. It's painful. It's painful. Because I can't take my head off. I can't pretend that you're not blowing smoke up the behind of every viewer. I can't even fake it. This is slick. This is slicker than a can of oil in the middle of melted lard. This is slick. So we get, guess what's happening? We're still getting the shaft because we're factored into people of color. So we don't get our standalone set-asides that we're due because everyone's included. And then you're going to double back around, and the people who are left behind, because we have already introduced the element of white fragility. We have already introduced all of these other things that's going to come front and center and say, I mean, it's unfair. All we've ever known is having privilege. And now it's a disproportionate amount of mental illness and suicide and people not being able to cope. Well, welcome to the club. But you already accommodated. You already accommodated. You already hooked up.
So, They say, so they say, they say, people who were left behind and people of color. When she flipped it right there, it automatically said race equity is about the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. They heard the message and they're going to work to put you in your American dream. And, oh yeah, and by the way, and people of color, which has us grouped with a whole lot of people. But let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. Smash the share button, smash the like button. They should not have clipped. We weren't going to even go this far. We wanted people to review it the rest of the way for themselves. But since you're clipping, and you're clipping right now, let's continue.
Make historic investments in underserved communities and put equity at the heart of our recovery. His ambitious agenda builds on a legacy of Americans forging opportunity out of crisis. These aren't feel-good policies. The evidence is clear. Investing in equity is good for economic growth, and it creates jobs for all Americans. Economists have estimated that the U.S. economy has lost a staggering $16 trillion over the last 20 years because of discrimination against families of color. If we closed racial gaps in income and opportunity, these same economists have estimated we could add $5 trillion to the U.S. economy over the next 5 years and add over 6 million new jobs for all Americans. So building a more equitable economy is essential if Americans are going to compete and thrive in the 21st century. We've hit the ground running to embed equity throughout the administration. On day one, the President signed an executive order directing an unprecedented whole-of-government initiative to embed racial equity across federal policies, programs, and institutions. That starts with a review of policies and institutions to redress systemic racism where it exists and to advance equity where we aren't doing enough. Every agency will place equity at the core of their public engagement, their policy design and program delivery, to ensure that government resources are reaching Americans of color and all marginalized communities.
Wait a minute. Why we keep having these ands?
People of color and all marginalized communities. Now, equity, we talked about equity before. Equity is, okay, white dude walks into the mall, shoots up the mall, he gets 3 years with 2 years probation. Black man walks into the mall, shoots up the mall, same weapon, same weaponry, same type of damage. He gets 25 to life, no chance of parole. Equity is what the white man gets, the black man will be sentenced the same way. That's equity. When you start throwing in equity about certain marginalized groups and people of color, there will never be true equity because you are still looking out for those that have had privilege, which has brought about their white fragility in the first place. It's all doublespeak jargon. It is all doublespeak, forked tongue jargon. It's talking out of two sides of your face, two sides of your neck. It is just, it's just unbelievable. And she is the one set in the middle to deliver this. They are putting a black face on it, but luckily she is not total American black. She is Jamaican. She said it. So we can say, oh, this Jamaican person just messed it all up.
Rural, urban, disabled, LGBTQ+, religious minorities, and so many others.
Okay. Now, Claude Anderson talks about this in nauseam when he did not write the Second Civil Rights Act to bring about justice for American black people to add in minorities. He calls it cripples, humpbacks, LGBTQ, all this other thing. That's when they start putting in a minority, and then all of a sudden, all these other people get higher, get above on the totem pole than American blacks, what the original set-asides were for. Now it's other marginalized religious groups. They didn't throw that in there as a minority. This race equity is not about American blacks whatsoever, though they throw us in there. She had us at the beginning, but then she said she lumped us in people of color, and now it's lumped into other minorities who never were lynched, castrated, maimed, tarred and feathered, drawed and quartered, raped on the plantations. None of that. None of that. And then after you were free, land being taken away from you because you didn't have the rights of citizens. You had to fight to get the right of citizenship. After that, the Jim Crow laws. After the Jim Crow laws, you had to fight for civil rights laws because the first civil rights law didn't have any federal teeth because the Congress didn't put any money behind it. So you had to do all that. Then by the time they did all that, they found a way, and the blacks went along with it. Jesse and not Al. Al came around a little later. All the others, Abernathy, all of them went along with it and said, yes, we're a minority. And then they said, thank you. Now we can clump all these other people in there. This is a disgrace what she's talking. This is not race equity. This is about various minorities. How can you throw in other minorities that don't have anything to do with race? You're talking about people who are in wheelchairs. What's that got to do with race? How's that
Watch
race
this,
equity? Go ahead.
Watch this. Wait a minute. I'm gonna see if I can bring this up for y'all. Oh, I didn't do it. Let's see.
What is race equity when you're talking about people who are LGBTQ A through Z? That's not race equity. That's not race equity. Are you saying now that being a LGBTQ A through Z is a race? Are you saying that people who are in wheelchairs are now a race? This is weird.
Okay, let's see if I can get this up.
Okay, your sound went out altogether. I don't know what we're looking at. I'm not hearing anything from your channel at all. Nothing at all. Nothing's coming up. Let's see. You're plugged back in. I'm still not hearing you now. You have no signal whatsoever. Whatever. You might have to go back out and come back in now. Because I don't hear anything on you whatsoever. There's nothing. It's just dead sound. So what is that, people? What is that? Are these people now a race? Let's continue with what she's talking about.
The president has put equity at the center of his response to the COVID-19 and economic crises. His executive orders signed last week deliver rent relief, student debt reprieve, and emergency food assistance to families across the country, helping all Americans, including black and brown families who we know are being hit hardest by this crisis. And he took steps to make our broke.
Okay. Helping all families, including black and brown, who are being hit, which we know are being hit hard by this crisis, right? What does this have to do with race equity if you keep on saying and? You keep on saying and you're adding other groups, or you're tagging on the group that is supposed to matter for the most, you're tacking them on at the end.
An immigration system more humane and secure. He restored the integrity of the census so that our constitutionally mandated accounting of every person in the United States is fair and inclusive. And even before taking office, President Biden released his American Rescue Plan that will make historic investments in advancing equity. Independent economists estimate that his plan will cut child poverty in half. Cut child poverty in half for all Americans and reduce overall poverty by 30%.
Okay, race equity. Now it's child poverty. Everything is being thrown in this. Everything except for the kitchen sink. The kitchen sink is coming next. But child poverty, right? And then people who are impoverished. Now everyone is impoverished. This is race equity. All of it's being thrown in.
Yeah.
The kitchen sink, the locker room, the dirty drawers, the spent towels, everything. You know what I mean? Everything is being thrown in. This is a travesty. It's a disaster. What you got to say? See where your volume is.
And she keeps saying, am I good? Am I good? She keeps saying, and for all Americans, here's our problem. All Americans, I'm not saying that the people who live here that are now actively involved and alive and contribute to the machine don't deserve anything. But what I'm saying is all Americans didn't build this country. All Americans haven't been cheated. All Americans haven't been duped. But when it comes to what it is that we're supposed to be getting, is lumped into all Americans. And this is what I was trying to play that didn't want to play for me.
Yeah, that's good. Just give it a bar because they're a clip. They're a clip on that. Talking out the side of your neck. So people, look. We've proven the point. You know, one, we proved the point. If you clip us, we're gonna come back even stronger. So you might as well not clip us. That's one. Because it's discipline here. Number two, the show was better because we were able to combine a whole bunch of videos together to prove and make the point, right? Three, we appreciate you tuning in and the people coming back and watching us, you know, coming back and watching us and falling back in and saying, oh, they came back up to finish what they had started. That's right. So look, people. This has been Observations TFR. We're not going to even talk about, we'll talk about Tasty Tuesday. We'll talk about the recipes next week, right? We'll talk about them next week. But we had to get this out, and being they clipped us, they took a little time away, right? They took time away from us, right? Well, that was cool. That was cool. That's what they do. But so next Tuesday we'll be back to the recipes, but we had to get this out. Undoubtable Facts Part 2, right? We appreciate you. We appreciate you tuning in to Observations TFR. And tomorrow is Stock Wednesday, right? Stock Wednesday. Last week we talked about African. I think that's what it is. African. Did you get your stock in that? If not, we will re-mention it tomorrow and we will be moving forward. We appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. This has been another jam-packed episode, truly jam-packed, of Observations TFR. We will see you tomorrow with Stock Wednesdays, and see you tomorrow.
Here's the thing about your movie, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Community, heart.
Observations TFR, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday.